The second book of Kings, Melachim Bet. Chapter 1. And Moab revolted against Yisrael after the death of Ahab. And Ahaziah fell through the lattice of his upper room in Shamaron, and was injured, and sent messengers and said to them, Go, inquire of Baal-zebub, the mighty one of Ekron, if I shall recover from this injury. But a messenger of Yahuwah spoke to Elisha the Tishbite, Rise up, go to meet the messengers of the sovereign of Shamaron, and say to them, Is it because there is no Elohim in Yisrael that you are going to inquire of Baal-zebub, the mighty one of Ekron? So therefore, thus said Yahuwah, You are not going to get out of the bed to which you have gone up, for you shall certainly die. And Elisha went. And the messengers returned to him, and he said to them, Why have you come back? And they said to him, A man came to meet us and said to us, Go, return to the sovereign who sent you, and say to him, Is it because there is no Elohim in Yisrael that you are sending to inquire of Baal-zebub, the mighty one of Ekron? Therefore you are not going to get out of the bed to which you have gone up, for you shall certainly die. And he said to them, What was the man like who came up to meet you and spoke to you these words? And they answered him, He was a hairy man, and wore a leather girdle around his waist. And he said, It is Elisha the Tishbite. He then sent to him a captain of 50 with his 50 men. And he went up to him, and see, he was sitting on the top of a hill. And he spoke to him, Man of Elohim, the sovereign has said, Come down. And Eliyahu answered and said to the captain of 50, And if I am a man of Elohim, let fire come down from the heavens and consume you and your 50 men. And fire came down from the heavens and consumed him and his 50. He then sent another captain of 50 with his 50 men to him. And he answered and said to him, Man of Elohim, this is what the sovereign said. Come down at once. And Elisha answered and said to them, If I am a man of Elohim, let fire come down from the heavens and consume you and your 50 men. And a fire of Elohim came down from the heavens and consumed him and his 50. And again he sent a third captain of 50 with his 50 men. And the third captain of the 50 went up and came and fell on his knees before Eliyahu and pleaded with him and said to him, Man of Elohim, please, let my life and the life of these 50 servants of yours be precious in your eyes. See, the fire has come down from the heavens and burned up the first 2 captains of 50s with their 50s, but let my life be precious in your eyes. And the messenger of Yahuwah said to Eliyahu, Go down with him. Do not be afraid of him. So he rose up and went down with him to the sovereign, and spoke to him, Thus said Yahuwah, Because you have sent messengers to inquire of Baal-zebub, the mighty one of Ekron, is it because there is no Elohim in Yisrael to inquire of his word? Therefore you are not going to get up out of the bed to which you have gone up, for you shall certainly die. And he died, according to the word of Yahuwah, which Eliyahu had spoken. And Jehoram reigned in his place in the 2nd year of Jehoram, son of Jehoshaphat, sovereign of Yehudah, for he had no son. And the rest of the acts of Ahaziah which he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yisrael? Chapter 2. And it came to be when Yahuwah was to take up Eliyahu to the heavens by a whirlwind, that Eliyahu went with Elisha from Gilgal. And Eliyahu said to Elisha, Please remain here, for Yahuwah has sent me on to Bethel. And Elisha said, As Yahuwah lives, and as your being lives, I do not leave you. And they went down to Bethel. And the sons of the prophets who were at Bethel came out to Elisha and said to him, "Do you know that Yahuwah is taking away your master from your head?" And he said, "I also know. Be silent." And Eliyahu said to him, "Elisha, remain here, for Yahuwah has sent me on to Jericho." And he said, "As Yahuwah lives, and as your being lives, I do not leave you." And they came into Jericho. And the sons of the prophets who were at Jericho came to Elisha and said to him, "Do you know that Yahuwah is taking away your master from over you today?" And he said, "I also know. Be silent." And Eliyahu said to him, "Please remain here, for Yahuwah has sent me on to the Yarden." And he said, "As Yahuwah lives, and as your being lives, I do not leave you." And the two of them went on. And 50 men of the sons of the prophets went out and stood facing them at a distance, while the two of them stood by the Yarden. And Eliyahu took his mantle and rolled it up and struck the water, and it was divided this way and that, so that the two of them passed over on dry ground. And it came to be, when they had passed over, that Eliyahu said to Elisha, "Ask what I am to do for you, before I am taken away from you." And Elisha said, "Please let a double portion of your spirit be upon me." And he said, "You have made it hard to ask. Yet if you see me when I am taken from you, it is yours. But if not, it is not." And it came to be, as they continued on and spoke, that see, a chariot of fire with horses of fire, which separated the two of them. And Eliyahu went up by a whirlwind into the heavens. And Elisha saw it, and he cried out, My father, the chariot of Yisrael and its horsemen!" And he saw him no more. Then he took hold of his garments and tore them into 2 pieces. And he took up the mantle of Eliyahu that had fallen from him, and went back and stood by the bank of the Yarden. And he took the mantle of Eliyahu that had fallen from him and struck the water and said, "Where is Yahuwah Elohim of Eliyahu?" And he struck the water, and it was divided this way and that, and Elisha passed over. And when the sons of the prophets who were from Jericho saw him, they said, "The spirit of Eliyahu rests on Elisha." And they came to meet him and bowed to the ground before him. And they said to him, "Look, there are 50 strong men with your servants. Please let them go and search for your master, lest the spirit of Yahuwah has taken him up and cast him upon some mountain or into some valley." And he said to them, "Send no one." But they pressed upon him till he was ashamed, and he said, "Send." So they sent 50 men, and they searched for 3 days, but did not find him. And they returned to him, for he remained in Jericho. And he said to them, "Did I not say to you, do not go?" And the men of the city said to Elisha, "Look, the site of this city is good, as my master sees, but the waters are spoiled, and the soil is barren." And he said, "Bring me a new bowl, and put salt in it." And they brought it to him. And he went out to the source of the water, and threw salt in there, and said, "Thus said Yahuwah, I have healed this water. No longer shall death or barrenness come from it." And the waters were healed to this day, according to the word of Elisha, which he spoke. And he went up from there to Bethel. And as he was going up the way, some youths came from the city, and mocked him, and said to him, "Go up, bald head, go up, bald head." And he turned around and looked at them, and pronounced a curse on them in the name of Yahuwah. And 2 female bears came out of the forest, and tore to pieces 42 of the youths. And from there he went to Mount Carmel, and from there he returned to Shamaron. Chapter 3. And Jehoram, son of Ahab, began to reign over Yisrael at Shamaron in the 18th year of Jehoshaphat, sovereign of Yehudah, and reigned 12 years. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, but not like his father and mother, for he removed the statue of Baal which his father had made. But he clung to the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who had made Yisrael sin. He did not turn away from them. And Misha, sovereign of Moab, was a sheep breeder, and he paid the sovereign of Yisrael 100,000 lambs, and the wool of 100,000 rams. And it came to be when Ahab died that the sovereign of Moab revolted against the sovereign of Yisrael. And sovereign Jehoram went out of Shamaron at that time, and mustered all Yisrael. And he went and sent to Jehoshaphat, sovereign of Yehudah, saying, The sovereign of Moab has revolted against me. Do you go with me to fight against Moab? And he said, I go up. I am as you are, my people as your people, my horses as your horses. And he said, Which way do we go up? And he said, By the way of the wilderness of Edom. And the sovereign of Israel went, and the sovereign of Yehudah, and the sovereign of Edom, and went around a journey of 7 days. And there was no water for the army, nor for the cattle that followed them. And the sovereign of Israel said, What? Has Yahuwah called these 3 sovereigns to give them into the hand of Moab? And Jehoshaphat said, Is there no prophet of Yahuwah here? Then let us inquire of Yahuwah through him. One of the servants of the sovereign of Israel then answered and said, Elisha, son of Shaphat, is here, who poured water out on the hands of Eliyahu. And Jehoshaphat said, The word of Yahuwah is with him. And the sovereign of Israel and Jehoshaphat and the sovereign of Edom went down to him. And Elisha said to the sovereign of Israel, What have I to do with you? Go to the prophets of your father and the prophets of your mother. And the sovereign of Israel said to him, No, for Yahuwah has called these 3 sovereigns to give them into the hand of Moab. And Elisha said, As Yahuwah of hosts lives, before whom I stand, if it were not that I regarded the presence of Jehoshaphat, sovereign of Yehudah, I would not look at you nor see you. And now bring me a harpist. And it came to be when the harpist played that the hand of Yahuwah came upon him. And he said, Thus said Yahuwah, Make this wadi ditches. For thus said Yahuwah, You are not going to see wind nor rain, yet that wadi is to be filled with water, so that you, your cattle, and your beasts shall drink. And this shall be but a light matter in the eyes of Yahuwah. And he shall give Moab into your hand, and you shall strike every walled city, and every choice city, and shall cut down every good tree, and stop up every fountain of water, and ruin every good piece of land with stones. And it came to be in the morning, when the grain offering was offered, that see, water came by the way of Edom, and the land was filled with water. And when all Moab heard that the sovereigns had come up to fight against them, all who were able to bear arms and older were gathered, and they stood at the border. And they rose up early in the morning, and the sun was shining on the water. And the Moabites saw the water on the other side as red as blood. And they said, This is blood. The sovereigns have indeed struck swords and have killed one another. And now, Moab, to the spoil! And they came to the camp of Israel, and Israel rose up and struck the Moabites, so that they fled before them. And striking, they struck the Moabites, and they broke down the cities, and each man threw a stone on every good piece of land, and filled it. And they stopped up all the fountains of water, and cut down all the good trees, until only the stones of Ker Hasereth was left. And the slingers went around and struck it. And when the sovereign of Moab saw that the battle was too strong for him, he took with him 700 men who drew swords to break through to the sovereign of Edom, but they could not. Then took his eldest son, who would have reigned in his place, and offered him up as an ascending offering upon the wall. And there was great wrath against Israel, and they left him and returned to the land. Chapter 4. And a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets cried out to Elisha, saying, Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that your servant feared Yahuwah, and the lender has come to take my 2 sons to be his slaves. And Elisha said to her, What should I do for you? Inform me, what do you have in the house?" And she said, "Your female servant has none at all in the house except a pot of oil." And he said, "Go, borrow vessels from everywhere, from all your neighbors, empty vessels. Do not get a few. And when you've come in, you shall shut the door behind you and your sons. Then pour it into all those vessels, and set aside the filled ones." So she went from him and shut the door behind her, and her sons who brought the vessels to her, and she poured it out. And it came to be when the vessels were filled, that she said to her son, "Bring me another vessel." But he said to her, "There is not another vessel." And the oil ceased. So she went and informed the man of Elohim, and he said, "Go, sell the oil and pay your debt, and you and your sons live on the rest." And it came to be on a day that Elisha went to Shunem, where there was a prominent woman, and she took hold of him to eat some food. And it came to be as often as he passed by that he turned in there to eat some food. And she said to her husband, "Look, I know that this is a set-apart man of Elohim who passes by us continually. Please let us make a small upper room on the wall, and let us put a bed for him there, and a table and a chair and a lampstand. And it shall be, whenever he comes to us, let him turn in there." And it came to be on a day that he came there, and he turned into the upper room and lay down there. And he said to Gehazi his servant, "Call this Shunammite woman." So he called her, and she stood before him. And he said to him, "Please say to her, 'Look, you have gone to all this trouble for us. What is there to be done for you? Should I speak on your behalf to the sovereign or to the commander of the army?" And she answered, "I am dwelling among my own people." And he said, "What then is to be done for her?" And Gehazi answered, "Well, she has no son, and her husband is old." And he said, "Call her." So he called her, and she stood in the doorway. And he said, "About this appointed time next year, you shall embrace a son." And she said, "No, my master, man of Elohim, do not lie to your female servant." And the woman conceived and bore a son when the appointed time had come, of which Elisha had spoken to her. And the child grew, and it came to be on a day that he went out to his father, to the reapers. And he said to his father, "My head, my head." And he said to a servant, "Take him to his mother." So he took him and brought him to his mother, and he sat on her knees till noon, and died. And she went up and laid him on the bed of the man of Elohim, and shut the door on him, and went out. And she called to her husband and said, "Please, send me one of the young men and one of the donkeys, so that I hurry to the man of Elohim and return." And he said, "Why are you going to him today? It is neither the new moon nor the Sabbath." And she said, "It is well." And she saddled the donkey and said to her servant, "Drive and go. Do not slow down except I speak to you." And she went and came to the man of Elohim at Mount Carmel. And it came to be when the man of Elohim saw her at a distance that he said to his servant Gehazi, "See the Shunammite woman. Please now run to meet her and say to her, 'Is it well with you? Is it well with your husband? Is it well with the child?' And she answered, 'It is well.' And she came to the man of Elohim at the hill, and she took hold of him by the feet. But Gehazi came near to push her away. But the man of Elohim said, 'Leave her alone, for her being is bitter in her, and Yahuwah has hidden it from me, and has not revealed it to me.' And she said, 'Did I ask a son of my master? Did I not say, do not deceive me?' And he said to Gehazi, 'Gird up your loins, and take my staff in your hand, and go. When you meet anyone, do not greet him, and when anyone meets you, do not answer him. And you shall lay my staff on the face of the child.' And the mother of the child said, 'As Yahuwah lives, and as your being lives, I do not leave you.' And he rose and followed her. And Gehazi went on ahead of them, and laid the staff on the face of the child. But there was no voice, and there was no hearing. So he went back to meet him and reported to him, saying, "The child has not awakened." And Elisha came into the house and saw the child was dead, lying on his bed. And he went in and shut the door behind the two of them and prayed to Yahuwah. And he went up and lay on the child and put his mouth on his mouth and his eyes on his eyes and his hands on his hands and stretched himself out on the child. And the flesh of the child became warm. And he returned and walked back and forth in the house, then went up and stretched himself out on him. And the child sneezed 7 times, and the child opened his eyes. And he called Gehazi and said, "Call this Shunammite." So he called her, and she came in to him, and he said, "Pick up your son." Then she went in and fell at his feet and bowed herself to the ground and picked up her son and went out. And Elisha returned to Gilgal, and the scarcity of food was in the land, and the sons of the prophets were sitting before him, and he said to his servant, "Put on the large pot and cook stew for the sons of the prophets." And one went out to the field to gather plants, and found a wild vine, and gathered wild cucumbers from it, filling the skirt of his garment, and came and sliced them into the pot of stew, though they did not know what they were. They then served it to the men to eat. And it came to be as they were eating the stew that they cried out and said, "Oh, man of Elohim, there is death in the pot." And they were unable to eat it. And he said, "Then bring some flour." And he put it into the pot and said, "Serve it to the people to eat." And there was no evil matter in the pot. Now a man came from Baal Shalishah, and brought the man of Elohim bread of the first fruits, 20 loaves of barley bread, and newly ripened grain in his knapsack. And he said, "Give it to the people to eat." And his servant said, "What? Do I set this before 100 men? And he said, "Give it to the people to eat. For thus said Yahuwah, eat and have some left over." And he set it before them, and they ate and had some left over according to the word of Yahuwah. Chapter 5. And Naaman, commander of the army of the sovereign of Aram, was a great man in the eyes of his master, and highly respected, because by him Yahuwah had given deliverance to Aram, and he was a brave man, but leprous. And the Arameans had gone out on raids, and had brought back captive a young girl from the land of Yisrael, and she served the wife of Naaman. And she said to her mistress, "If only my master were with the prophet who is in Shamaron, then he would recover him of his leprosy." And Naaman went in and reported to his master, saying, "Thus and thus spoke the girl who is from the land of Israel." And the sovereign of Aram said, "Go, enter, and let me send a letter to the sovereign of Israel." And he went and took with him 10 talents of silver and 6,000 pieces of gold and 10 changes of garments. And he brought the letter to the sovereign of Israel, which said, "And now, when this letter comes to you, see, I have sent Naaman, my servant, to you, so that you shall recover him of his leprosy." And it came to be, when the sovereign of Israel read the letter, that he tore his garments and said, "Am I Elohim to kill and keep alive, that this man sends a man to me to recover him of his leprosy? For consider now and see how he is seeking an occasion with me." And it came to be, when Elisha, the man of Elohim, heard that the sovereign of Israel had torn his garments, that he sent to the sovereign, saying, "Why have you torn your garments? Please let him come to me, so that he knows that there is a prophet in Israel." And Naaman came with his horses and chariot, and he stood at the entrance of the house of Elisha. And Elisha sent a messenger to him, saying, "Go, and you shall wash 7 times in the Yarden, that your flesh might be restored to you and be clean." But Naaman became wroth and went away and said, "See, I said to myself, he would certainly come out to me and stand and call on the name of Yahuwah his Elohim and wave his hand over the place and recover the leprosy. Are not the Abana and the Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Yisrael? Could I not wash in them and be clean?" And he turned and went away in a rage. And his servants came near and spoke to him and said, "My father, if the prophet had spoken to you a great matter, would you not have done it? How much more then when he says to you, 'Wash and be clean'?" Then he went down and dipped 7 times in the Yarden, according to the word of the man of Elohim. And his flesh was restored like the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. And he returned to the man of Elohim, he and all his company, and came and stood before him and said, "See, now I know that there is no Elohim in all the earth except in Yisrael. And now please take a gift from your servant." But he said, "As Yahuwah lives, before whom I stand, I do not accept it." And he pressed on him to accept it, but he refused. Then Naaman said, "If not, please let your servant be given 2 mule loads of earth, for no longer is your servant going to make an ascending offering and slaughtering to other mighty ones, but to Yahuwah. Yahuwah, grant forgiveness to your servant in this matter, when my master goes into the house of Rimmon to worship there, and he leans on my hand, and I bow down in the house of Rimmon. When I bow down in the house of Rimmon, Yahuwah, please grant forgiveness to your servant in this matter." And he said to him, "Go in peace." And he went from him some distance. And Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of Elohim, said, "Look, my master has spared Naaman, this Aramean, while not receiving from his hands what he brought. But as Yahuwah lives, I shall run after him and take whatever from him." And Gehazi pursued Naaman. And when Naaman saw him running after him, he came down from the chariot to meet him and said, "Is there peace?" "Peace. My master has sent me, saying, 'Look, even now 2 young men of the sons of the prophets have come to me from the mountains of Ephraim. Please give them a talent of silver and 2 changes of garments.' And Naaman said, 'Please accept 2 talents. And he urged him, and bound 2 talents of silver in 2 bags, with 2 changes of garments, and handed them to 2 of his servants. And they bare them ahead of him. And when he came to the high place, he took them from their hand, and stored them away in the house, and let the men go. And they went. And he went in and stood before his master. And Elisha said to him, 'Where did you go, Gehazi?' And he said, 'Your servant did not go anywhere.' But he said to him, 'Did not my heart go with you when the man turned back from his chariot to meet you? Is it time to accept silver and to accept garments, and olive trees and vineyards and sheep and cattle and male and female servants? So let the leprosy of Naaman cling to you and your descendants forever.' And he went out from him as leprous as snow." Chapter 6. And the sons of the prophets said to Elisha, "See, the place where we dwell with you is too small for us. Please let us go to the Yarden, and let every man take a log from there, and let us make there a place to dwell." And he answered, "Go." Then one said, "Please undertake to go with your servants." And he answered, "I shall go." And he went with them, and they came to the Yarden, and they cut down trees. And it came to be as one was cutting down a tree, that the iron axe head fell into the water. And he cried out and said, "Oh, my master, for it was borrowed." And the man of Elohim said, "Where did it fall?" And he showed him the place. And he cut off a stick and threw it in there, and made the iron float. And he said, "Pick it up." And he reached out his hand and took it. And the sovereign of Aram was fighting against Yisrael, and took counsel with his servant, saying, "My camp is in such and such a place." And the man of Elohim sent to the sovereign of Israel, saying, "Be on guard. Do not pass this place, for the Arameans are coming down there." And the sovereign of Israel then sent to the place of which the man of Elohim had spoken to him, and warned him, so that he was on his guard there not once, and not twice. And this greatly troubled the heart of the sovereign of Aram. And he called his servants and said to them, Declare to me, who of us is for the sovereign of Yisrael? And one of the servants said, None. My master, O sovereign, for Elisha, the prophet who is in Israel, declares to the sovereign of Yisrael the words that you speak in your bedroom. And he said, Go and see where he is, so that I send and get him. And it was reported to him, saying, See, he is in Dothan. And he sent horses and chariots and a great army there, and they came by night and surrounded the city. And the servant of the man of Elohim rose early and went out, and saw an army surrounding the city with horses and chariots. And his servant said to him, Oh, my master, what do we do? And he answered, Do not fear, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. And Elisha prayed and said, Yahuwah, I pray, open his eyes and let him see. And Yahuwah opened the eyes of the young man, and he looked and saw the mountain covered with horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. And when they came down to him, Elisha prayed to Yahuwah and said, Strike this nation with blindness, I pray. And he struck them with blindness according to the word of Elisha. And Elisha said to them, This is not the way, nor is this the city. Follow me, and let me bring you to the man whom you seek. But he led them to Shamaron. And it came to be when they had come to Shamaron that Elisha said, Yahuwah, open the eyes of these men so that they see. And Yahuwah opened their eyes, and they looked, and saw they were in the midst of Shamaron. And when the sovereign of Yisrael saw them, he said to Elisha, My father, should I strike? Should I strike? But he said, Do not strike. Do you strike those with whom you have taken captive with your sword and your bow? Set food and water before them, and let them eat and drink, and go to their master. And he made a great feast for them. And after they ate and drank, he let them go, and they went to their master. And the bands of Aramean raiders came no more into the land of Israel. And after this it came to be that Ben-Hadad, the sovereign of Aram, mustered all his army, and went up and besieged Shamaron. And there was a great scarcity of food in Shamaron. And see, they besieged it until a donkey's head went at 80 pieces of silver, and 1/4 of a cob of dove droppings for 5 pieces of silver. And it came to be as the sovereign of Israel was passing by on the wall, a woman cried out to him, saying, Help, my master, O sovereign! And he said, If Yahuwah does not help you, where do I find help for you? From the threshing floor or from the winepress? And the sovereign said to her, What is troubling you? And she answered, This woman said to me, Give your son and let us eat him today, and tomorrow we eat my son. So we cooked my son and ate him. And I said to her on the next day, Give your son and let us eat him. But she has hidden her son. And it came to be when the sovereign heard the words of the woman that he tore his garments, and he passed by on the wall. The people looked and saw the sackcloth on his body underneath. And he said, Elohim do so to me, and more also if the head of Elisha, son of Shaphat, remains on him today. And Elisha was sitting in his house, and the elders were sitting with him. And the sovereign sent a man ahead of him. But the messengers came to him, and he said to the elders, Do you see how this son of a murderer has sent someone to take away my head? Look, when the messenger comes, shut the door, and hold him fast at the door. Is not the sound of his master's feet behind him? While he was still speaking with them, then see, the messenger came down to him, and he said, Look, this evil is from Yahuwah. Why should I wait for Yahuwah any longer? Chapter 7. And Elisha said, Hear the word of Yahuwah. Thus said Yahuwah, About this time tomorrow a seah of fine flour for a shekel, and 2 seahs of barley for a shekel at the gate of Shamaron. And an officer on whose hand the sovereign leaned answered the man of Elohim and said, Look, if Yahuwah is making windows in the heavens, shall this word come true? And he said, Look, you are about to see it with your eyes, but not eat of it. And there were 4 leprous men at the entrance of the gate, and they said to each other, Why are we sitting here until we are dead? If we shall say, Let us go into the city, the scarcity of food is in the city, and we shall die there. And if we sit here, we shall die. And now come, let us surrender to the army of the Arameans. If they keep us alive, we live, and if they kill us, we shall die. So at twilight they rose up to go to the camp of the Arameans. And when they had come to the outskirts of the Aramean camp, look, no one was there. For Yahuwah had caused the army of the Arameans to hear the noise of chariots and the noise of horses, the noise of a great army, and they said to each other, Look, the sovereign of Yisrael has hired against us the sovereigns of the Hittites and the sovereigns of the Mitzrites to come against us. So they rose up and fled at twilight and left the camp as it is, their tents and their horses and their donkeys, and they fled for their lives. And when these lepers came to the outskirts of the camp, they went into one tent and ate and drank and took from their silver and gold and garments and went and hid them. And they came back and went into another tent and took from there and went and hid it. Then they said to each other, We are not doing right. This day is a day of good news, and we are keeping silent. And if we wait until morning light, then evil shall come upon us. And now come, let us go and inform the house of the sovereign. And they came and called to the gatekeepers of the city and informed them, saying, We went to the camp of Aram, and look, there is not a man or a voice of man, only horses tied and donkeys tied in the tents as they were. And the gatekeepers called and they informed the house of the sovereign inside. So the sovereign rose up in the night and said to his servants, Let me now inform you what the Arameans have done to us. They know that we are starving, so they have gone out of the camp to hide themselves in the field, saying, When they come out of the city, we shall catch them alive and enter into the city. And one of his servants answered and said, Please, let some take 5 of the horses that are left in the city. Look, they are like the entire crowd of Yisrael that are left in it. Look, they are like the entire crowd of Yisrael left from those who are consumed. So let us send and see. They then took 2 chariots with horses, and the sovereign sent them in the direction of the camp of Aram, saying, Go and see. And they went after them to the Yarden. And look, all the way was littered with garments and weapons which the Arameans had thrown away in their haste. And the messengers returned and reported to the sovereign. Then the people went out and plundered the camp of Aram. So a seah of fine flour was for a shekel, and 2 seahs of barley for a shekel, according to the word of Yahuwah. And the sovereign had appointed the officer on whose hand he leaned to be in charge of the gate. But the people trampled him in the gate, and he died, as the man of Elohim had said, who spoke when the sovereign came down to him. And it came to be as the man of Elohim had spoken to the sovereign, saying, 2 seahs of barley for a shekel, and a seah of fine flour for a shekel, at this time tomorrow in the gate of Shamaron. That officer answered the man of Elohim and said, Now look, if Yahuwah is making windows in the heavens, is it according to this word? And he had said, Look, you are about to see it with your eyes, but not eat of it. And so it came to be for him, for the people trampled him in the gate, and he died. Chapter 8. And Elisha spoke to the woman whose son he had restored to life, saying, Rise up and go, you and your household, and sojourn wherever you do sojourn. For Yahuwah has called for a scarcity of food, and also it is coming upon the land for 7 years. And the woman rose up and did according to the word of the man of Elohim. And she went with her household, and sojourned in the land of the Philistines 7 years. And it came to be at the end of 7 years, that the woman returned from the land of the Philistines, and she went to cry out to the sovereign for her house and for her land. And the sovereign was speaking to Gehazi, the servant of the man of Elohim, saying, "Please relate to me all the great matters Elisha has done." And it came to be, as he was relating to the sovereign how he had restored the dead to life, that see, the woman whose son he had restored to life was crying out to the sovereign for her house and for her land. And Gehazi said, "My master, O sovereign, this is the woman, and this is her son, whom Elisha restored to life." So the sovereign asked the woman, and she related to him. And the sovereign appointed a certain eunuch for her, saying, "Returned all that was hers, and all the increase of the field from that day that she left the land until now." And Elisha came to Damascus, and Ben-Hadad, sovereign of Aram, was sick, and it was reported to him, saying, "The man of Elohim has come here." And the sovereign said to Hazael, "Take a present in your hand, and go to meet the man of Elohim, and inquire of Yahuwah by him, saying, 'Do I recover from this sickness?'" And Hazael went to meet him, and took a present with him of all the good wares of Damascus, 40 camel loads. And he came and stood before him, and said, "Your son Ben-Hadad, sovereign of Aram, has sent me to you, saying, 'Do I recover from this sickness?'" And Elisha said to him, "Go, say to him, 'You shall certainly recover.' But Yahuwah has shown me that he shall certainly die." And he looked at him steadily until he was ashamed. Then the man of Elohim wept. And Hazael said, "Why is my master weeping?" And he answered, "Because I know the evil that you are going to do to the children of Israel, setting their strongholds on fire and killing their young men with the sword and dashing their children and ripping open their women with child." Hazael said, "But what is your servant, a dog, that he should perform this great matter?" And Elisha answered, "Yahuwah has shown that you are to be sovereign over Aram." When he left Elisha and came to his master, who said to him, "What did Elisha say to you?" And he answered, "He said to me that you shall certainly recover." And on the next day it came to be that he took a thick cloth and dipped it in water and spread it over his face, so that he died. And Hazael reigned in his place. And in the 5th year of Joram, son of Ahab, sovereign of Yisrael, Jehoshaphat was sovereign of Yehudah. Jehoram, son of Jehoshaphat, began to reign as sovereign of Yehudah. He was 32 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 8 years in Jerusalem. And he walked in the way of the sovereigns of Yisrael, as the house of Ahab had done. For the daughter of Ahab was his wife, and he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah. However, Yahuwah would not destroy Yehudah for the sake of David his servant, as he promised him, to give a lamp to him and his sons forever. In his days, Edom revolted from under the hand of Yehudah, and made a sovereign over themselves. And Joram passed over to Zair, and all his chariots with him. And he rose by night and struck the Edomites who had surrounded him, and the commanders of the chariots. But his people fled to their tents. Yet Edom has been in revolt from under the hand of Yehudah to this day. Then Libnah revolted at the same time. And the rest of the acts of Joram, and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yehudah? So Joram slept with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David, and Ahaziah his son reigned in his place. In the 12th year of Joram, son of Ahab, sovereign of Yisrael, Ahaziah, son of Jehoram, sovereign of Yehudah, began to reign. Ahaziah was 22 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. And the name of his mother was Athaliah, the granddaughter of Omri, sovereign of Israel. And he walked in the way of the house of Ahab, and did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, as the house of Ahab had done, for he was the son-in-law of the house of Ahab. And he went with Joram, son of Ahab, to battle against Hazael, sovereign of Aram, at Ramoth Gilead. And the Arameans struck Joram, and sovereign Joram went back to Yisrael, to recover from the wounds with which the Arameans had stricken him at Ramah, where he fought against Hazael, sovereign of Aram. Then Ahaziah, son of Jehoram, the sovereign of Yehudah, went down to see Joram, son of Ahab, in Yisrael, for he was sick. And Elisha the prophet called one of the sons of the prophets and said to him, Gird your loins, and take this flask of oil in your hand, and go to Ramoth Gilead. And you shall go there and look there for Jehu, son of Jehoshaphat, son of Nimshi, and go in and make him rise up from among his brothers, and take him to an inner room, and take the flask of oil and pour it on his head, and say, Thus said Yahuwah, I have anointed you sovereign over Yisrael. Then you shall open the door and flee, and do not wait. So the young man the prophet, went to Ramoth Gilead, and came in and saw the commanders of the army sitting, and he said, I have a message for you, O commander. And Jehu said, For which one of us? And he said, For you, commander. And he rose up and went into the house, and he poured the oil on his head, and said to him, Thus said Yahuwah Elohim of Yisrael, I have anointed you sovereign over the people of Yahuwah, over Yisrael, and you shall strike the house of Ahab your master, and I shall avenge the blood of my servants, the prophets, and the blood of all the servants of Yahuwah at the hand of Jezebel. And all the house of Ahab shall perish, and I shall cut off from Ahab all the males in Yisrael, both those who shut up and those left at large. And I shall give up the house of Ahab, like the house of Jeroboam son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha son of Ahiah. And the dogs are going to eat Jezebel in the portion of Yisrael, with none to bury her. Then he opened the door and fled. And Jehu came out to the servants of his master, and one said to him, Is there peace? Why did this madman come to you? And he said to them, You know the man and his talk. And they said, A lie, reveal it to us now. So he said, Thus and thus he spoke to me, saying, Thus said Yahuwah, I have anointed you sovereign over Yisrael. And they hurried, and each one took his garments and put it under him on the top of the steps. And they blew with the shofar, saying, Jehu reigns! Thus Jehu, son of Jehoshaphat, son of Nimshi, conspired against Joram. Now Joram had been guarding Ramoth Gilead, he and all Yisrael, against Hazael, sovereign of Aram. But sovereign Jehoram had returned to Yisrael to recover from the wounds with which the Arameans had stricken him when he fought with Hazael, sovereign of Aram. Jehu now said, If this is your desire, let no one leave or escape from the city to go and make it known in Yisrael. And Jehud rode in a chariot and went to Yisrael, for Joram was laid up there. And Ahaziah, sovereign of Yehudah, had come down to see Joram. And a watchman stood on the tower in Yisrael. And he saw the company of Jehu as he came, and said, I see a company of men. And Jehoram said, Get a horseman and send him to meet them, and let him say, Is there peace? And the horseman went to meet him, and said, Thus said the sovereign, Is there peace? And Jehu said, What have you to do with peace? Turn around and follow me. And the watchman spoke, saying, The messenger went to them, but is not coming back. Then he sent out a second horseman who came to them and said, Thus said the sovereign, Is there peace? And Jehu answered, What have you to do with peace? Turn around and follow me. And the watchman spoke, saying, He went up to them and is not coming back. And the driving is like the driving of Jehu, son of Nimshi, for he drives madly. Then Jehoram said, "Hitch up." And his chariot was hitched up. And Jehoram, sovereign of Yisrael, and Ahaziah, sovereign of Yehudah, went out, each in his chariot. And they went out to meet Jehu, and met him on the portion of Naboth, the Yisraelite. And it came to be when Jehoram saw Jehu that he said, "Is there peace, Jehu?" But he answered, "What peace? As long as the whorings of your mother Jezebel and her witchcraft are so many." Thereupon Jehoram turned his hands around and fled, and said to Ahaziah, "Treachery, O Ahaziah!" And Jehu drew his bow and struck Jehoram between his arms, and the arrow came out at his heart, and he sank down in his chariot. And Jehu said to Bichar, his officer, "Take him up and throw him into the portion of the field of Naboth the Yisraelite. Remember how you and I were riding together behind Ahab his father, and Yahuwah lifted up this pronouncement against him. Have I not seen the blood of Naboth and the blood of his sons last night? Declares Yahuwah. And I shall repay you in this portion, declares Yahuwah. And now take up, throw him on the portion according to the word of Yahuwah." And Ahaziah, sovereign of Yehudah, saw this and fled up the way to Beth Hagan. And Jehu pursued him and said, "Strike him too in the chariot, at the ascent to Gur, which is by Yibleam." And he fled to Megiddo, and died there. Then his servants conveyed him in the chariot to Jerusalem, and buried him in his burial place with his fathers, in the city of David. And in the 11th year of Joram, son of Ahab, Ahaziah began to reign over Yehudah. And Jehu came to Yisrael, and Jezebel heard of it. And she put paint on her eyes, and adorned her head, and looked through a window. And as Jehu came to the gate, she said, "Is it peace, Zimri, killer of your master?" And he lifted up his face to the window and said, "Who is with me? Who?" And 2, 3 eunuchs looked down to him, and he said, "Throw her down." And they threw her down, and some of her blood spattered on the wall and on the horses, and he trampled her underfoot. And he went in, and he ate and drank, and said, "Go now, see to this cursed one, and bury her, for she was a sovereign's daughter." So they went to bury her, but all they found of her was the skull and the feet and the palms of the hands. And they came back and informed him, and he said, "This is the word of Yahuwah, which he spoke by his servant Eliyahu, the Tishbite, saying, In the portion of Yisrael, dogs are going to eat the flesh of Jezebel, and the corpse of Jezebel shall be as dung on the surface of the field in the portion of Yisrael, so that they do not say, This is Jezebel." Chapter 10. And Ahab had 70 sons in Shamaron. And Jehu wrote letters and sent to Shamaron, to the rulers of Yisrael, to the elders, and to the guardians of Ahab, saying, "And now, when this letter comes to you, since your master's sons are with you, and you have chariots and horses in a walled city, and weapons, choose the best and most upright of your master's sons, and set him on his father's throne, and fight for your master's house." And they were greatly afraid, and said, "Look, 2 sovereigns have stood before him. How do we stand? We!" And he who was over the house, and he who was over the city, the elders and the guardians, sent to Jehu, saying, "We are your servants, and all that you say to us we do. We do not set up anyone to reign. Do what is good in your eyes." And he wrote a second letter to them, saying, "If you are for me, and if you obey my voice, take the heads of the men, your master's sons, and come to me at Yisrael by this time tomorrow." Now the sovereign sons, 70 beings, were with the great men of the city who brought them up. And it came to be when the letter came to them that they took the sovereign sons and slew them, 70 men, and put their heads in baskets, and sent them to him at Yisrael. Then a messenger came and informed him, saying, "They have brought the heads of the sovereign sons." And he said, Make them 2 heaps at the entrance of the gate until morning. And it came to be in the morning that he went out and stood and said to all the people, You are righteous. Look, I conspired against my master and killed him. But who struck all these? Know now that not one word of Yahuwah, which Yahuwah spoke concerning the house of Ahab, does fall to the ground. For Yahuwah has done what he spoke by his servant Eliyahu. And Jehu struck all those left of the house of Ahab in Yisrael, and all his great men, and his friends, and his priests, until he left him without a survivor. And he rose up to go, and went to Shamaron, on the way at Beth-Eked of the shepherds. Jehu met the brothers of Ahaziah, sovereign of Yehudah, and said, Who are you? And they answered, We are brothers of Ahaziah, and we have come down to greet the sons of the sovereign and the sons of the sovereigness his mother. And he said, Take them alive. So they took them alive and slew them at the well of Beth-Eked, 42 men, and he left none of them. And he left there and met Jehonadab, son of Rechab, coming to meet him, and blessed him and said to him, Is your heart right, as my heart is toward your heart? And Jehonadab answered, It is. Jehu said, If it is, give me your hand. And he gave him his hand, and he took him up to him into the chariot. And he said, Come with me, and see my ardor for Yahuwah. And they made him ride in his chariot. And he came to Shamaron, and struck all those left of Ahab in Shamaron, till he had destroyed them according to the word of Yahuwah, which he spoke to Eliyahu. And Jehu gathered all the people and said to them, Ahab served Baal a little, Jehu serves him much. And now call to me all the prophets of Baal, all his servants and all his priests. Let no one be missing, for I have a great slaughtering to make to Baal. Anyone who is lacking shall not live. But Jehu did this deceptively, in order to destroy the servants of Baal. And Jehu said, Set apart an assembly for Baal. So they proclaimed it. And Jehu sent throughout all Yisrael, and all the servants of Baal came, so that there was not a man left who did not come. And they came into the house of Baal, and the house of Baal was filled from end to end. And he said to him who was over the wardrobe, Bring out garments for all the servants of Baal. And he brought out garments for them. And Jehu and Jehonadab, son of Rechab, went into the house of Baal, and said to the servants of Baal, Search and see that no servants of Yahuwah are here with you, but only the servants of Baal. So they went in to make slaughterings and ascending offerings. Now Jehu had appointed for himself 80 men on the outside, and had said, The man who lets any escape of the men that I have brought into your hands, his life for his life. And it came to be when he had finished making the ascending offering, Jehu said to the guard and to the officers, Go in, strike them, let no one come out. And they struck them with the edge of the sword, and the guards and the officers threw them out, and went into the inner room of the house of Baal, and brought out the pillars of the house of Baal, and burned them, and broke down the statue of Baal, and broke down the house of Baal, and made it a latrine to this day. Thus Jehu destroyed Baal out of Yisrael. However, Jehu did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam son of Nebat, who had made Yisrael sin, from the golden calves that were at Bethel and Dan. And Yahuwah said to Jehu, Because you have done well by doing what is right in my eyes, and have done to the house of Ahab all that was in my heart, your sons are going to sit on the throne of Yisrael to the 4th generation. But Jehu did not guard to walk in the Torah of Yahuwah Elohim of Yisrael with all his heart. For he did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam, who had made Yisrael sin. In those days Yahuwah began to cut off some in Yisrael, and Hazael struck them throughout all the border of Yisrael, from the Yarden to the sun rising, all the land of Gilead, the Gadites and the Reubenites and the Manasseites from Aor, which is by the Wadi Arnon, including Gilead and Bashan, and the rest of the acts of Jehu, and all that he did, and all his might. Are they not written in the books of the annals of the sovereigns of Israel? So Jehu slept with his fathers, and they buried him in Shamaron. And Jehoahaz his son reigned in his place. And the days that Jehu reigned over Israel in Shamaron were 28 years. Chapter 11. And Athaliah was the mother of Ahaziah, and when she saw that her son was dead, she arose and destroyed all the offspring of the reign. But Yehosheba, the daughter of sovereign Joram, sister of Ahaziah, took Joash, son of Ahaziah, and stole him away from among the sons of the sovereign's sons, who were put to death. So they hid him and his nurse in the bedroom from Athaliah, and he was not put to death. And he remained with her in hiding in the house of Yahuwah for 6 years, while Athaliah was reigning over the land. And in the 7th year Jehoiada sent and brought the commanders of hundreds with the Kerites and the runners, and brought them into the house of Yahuwah to him. And he made a covenant with them, and took an oath from them in the house of Yahuwah, and showed them the son of the sovereign. And he commanded them, saying, This is what you are to do. 1/3 of you who come in on the Sabbath, to be on guard in the sovereign's house, and 1/3 at the gate of Sur, and 1/3 at the gate behind the runners, and you shall be on guard in the house, lest it be broken down. And the 2 detachments of you who are going out on the Sabbath shall be on guard in the house of Yahuwah for the sovereign. And you shall surround the sovereign on all sides, every man with his weapons in his hand. And whoever comes within the ranks, let him be put to death. And be with the sovereign as he goes out and as he comes in. So the commanders of the hundreds did according to all that Jehoiada the priest commanded. And each of them took his men who were going in on the Sabbath with those who were going out on the Sabbath, and came to Jehoiada the priest. And the priest gave the commanders of hundreds the spears and the shields which had belonged to sovereign David, that were in the house of Yahuwah. And the runners stood, every man with his weapons in his hand, all around the sovereign, from the right side of the house to the left side of the house, by the slaughter place, and the house. And he brought out the son of the sovereign, and put on him the diadem and the witness. And they set him up to reign, and anointed him. And they clapped their hands and said, Let the sovereign live! And Ahaziah heard the noise of the runners, the people, and she came to the people into the house of Yahuwah, and looked, and saw the sovereign standing by a column according to the ruling. And the chiefs and the trumpeters were beside the sovereign, and all the peoples of the land rejoicing and blowing trumpets. And Athaliah tore her garments and cried out, Treason! Treason! And Jehoiada the priest commanded the commanders of the hundreds, the officers of the army, and said to them, Take her outside the ranks, and slay with the sword whoever follows her. For the priest had said, Do not let her be killed in the house of Yahuwah. So they took hold of her, and she went by the way of the horses' entrance to the sovereign's house, and was put to death there. And Jehoiada made a covenant between Yahuwah and the sovereign and the people to be the people of Yahuwah, also between the sovereign and the people. And all the people of the land went to the house of Baal and broke it down. They completely broke up its slaughter places and images, and killed Matan, the priest of Baal, before the slaughter places. And the priests appointed inspectors over the house of Yahuwah, and took the commanders of hundreds, and the Kerites, and the runners, and all the people of the land, and they brought the sovereign down from the house of Yahuwah, and went by the way of the gate of the runners to the sovereign's house. And he sat on the throne of the sovereigns, and all the people of the land rejoiced, and the city had rest, for they had slain Athaliah with the sword in the sovereign's house. Joash was 7 years old when he began to reign. Chapter 12. And Joash began to reign in the 7th year of Jehu, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Zibiah of Beersheba. And Joash did what was right in the eyes of Yahuwah, all the days in which Jehoiada the priest instructed him. However, the high places were not taken away. The people still slaughtered and burned incense on the high places. And Joash said to the priests, all the silver of the set-apart gifts that are brought into the house of Yahuwah, the silver coming over, each man's assessment silver, all the silver that a man purposes in his heart to bring into the house of Yahuwah. Let the priests take for themselves, each from his friend, and let them strengthen the breaches of the house, wherever there is a breach. And it came to be by the 23rd year of sovereign of Joash, that the priests had not strengthened the breaches of the house. And sovereign Joash called Jehoiada, the priests, and the other priests, and said to them, why have you not strengthened the breaches of the house? And now do not take any more silver from your friends, but give it for the breaches of the house. And the priests agreed that they would neither receive any more silver from the people, nor strengthen the breaches of the house. And Jehoiada the priest took a chest and bored a hole in its lid, and set it beside the slaughter place, on the right side as one comes into the house of Yahuwah. And the priests who guarded the door put there all the silver that was brought into the house of Yahuwah. And it came to be, whenever they saw that there was much silver in the chest, that the sovereign scribes and the high priest came up and put it in bags, and counted the silver that was found in the house of Yahuwah, and gave the silver weighed out into the hands of those who did the work, who had the oversight of the house of Yahuwah. And they paid it out to the carpenters and builders who worked on the house of Yahuwah, and to stonemasons and stone cutters, and for buying timber and hewn stone to strengthen the breach of the house of Yahuwah, for all that was paid out to strengthen the house. However, there were not made for the house of Yahuwah basins of silver, snuffers, sprinkling bowls, trumpets, any objects of gold or objects of silver from the silver that was brought into the house of Yahuwah, for they gave that to the workmen, and they strengthened the house of Yahuwah with it. And they did not reckon with the men into whose hands they gave the silver to be paid to workmen, for they acted trustworthily. The silver from the trespass offerings and the silver from the sin offerings was not brought into the house of Yahuwah. It belonged to the priests. And Hazael, sovereign of Aram, went up and fought against Gath, and captured it. And Hazael set his face to go up to Jerusalem. And Joash, sovereign of Yehuda, took all the set-apart gifts that his fathers, Jehoshaphat and Jehoram, and Ahaziah, sovereigns of Yehuda, had set apart, and his own set-apart gifts, and all the gold found in the treasuries of the house of Yahuwah, and in the sovereign's house, and sent them to Hazael, sovereign of Aram. Then he went away from Jerusalem. And the rest of the acts of Joash, and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yehuda? And his servants rose up and made a conspiracy, and smote Joash in the house of Milo, which goes down to Selah. For Jozachar, son of Shemaath, and Jozabad, son of Shomer, his servants struck him. So he died, and they buried him with his fathers in the city of David, and Amaziah his son reigned in his place. Chapter 13. In the 23rd year of Joash, son of Ahaziah, sovereign of Yehuda, Jehoahaz, son of Jehu, began to reign over Israel in Shamaron, and reigned 17 years. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, and followed the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who had made Israel sin. He did not turn away from them. And the displeasure of Yahuwah burned against Israel, and he gave them into the hands of Hazael, sovereign of Aram, and into the hand of Ben-Hadad, sovereign of Hazael, all the days. Then Jehoahaz sought the face of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah listened to him, for he saw the oppression of Israel, because the sovereign of Aram oppressed them. And Yahuwah gave Israel a savior, so that they came out from under the hand of Aram. and the children of Israel dwelt in their tents as before. However, they did not turn away from the sins of the house of Jeroboam, who had made Israel sin, but walked in them. Moreover, the Asherah also remained in Shamaron, for he left of the army of Jehoahaz only 50 horsemen, and 10 chariots, and 10,000 footmen, for the sovereign of Aram had destroyed them, and made them like the dust at threshing. And the rest of the acts of Jehoahaz, and all that he did, and his might, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Israel? So Jehoahaz slept with his fathers, and they buried him in Shamaron, and Joash his son reigned in his place. In the 37th year of Joash, sovereign of Yehudah, Jehoash, son of Jehoahaz, began to reign over Israel in Shamaron 16 years. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah. He did not turn away from all the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who had made Israel sin. He walked in it. And the rest of the acts of Joash, and all that he did, and his might with which he fought against Amaziah, sovereign of Yehudah, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Israel? So Joash slept with his fathers, and Jeroboam sat on his throne. And Joash was buried in Shamaron with the sovereigns of Israel. And Elisha had become sick with the sickness in which he died. And Joash the sovereign of Israel came down to him and wept over his face and said, "Oh, my father, the chariots of Israel and their horsemen." And Elisha said to him, "Take a bow and some arrows." And he took a bow and some arrows. And he said to the sovereign of Israel, "Place your hands on the bow." So he placed his hand, and Elisha placed his hands on the hands of the sovereign, and said, "Open the east window." And he had opened it. And Elisha said, "Shoot." And he shot. Then he said, "The arrow of deliverance of Yahuwah, and the arrow of deliverance from Aram, for you shall strike Aram at Aphek until it is finished." Then he said, "Take the arrows." And he took them. And he said to the sovereign of Israel, "Strike the ground." And he struck 3 times and stopped. And the man of Elohim was wroth with him and said, "You should have struck 5 or 6 times, then you would have stricken Aram till its utter destruction. But now you shall strike Aram only 3 times. And Elisha died there, and they buried him. And the raiding bands from Moab came into the land in the spring of the year. And it came to be they were burying a man, and there they saw a raiding band, and cast the man in the burial site of Elisha. And the man fell and touched the bones of Elisha, and came to life and stood on his feet. And Hazael, sovereign of Aram, oppressed Israel all the days of Jehoahaz. But Yahuwah showed favor to them, and had compassion on them, and turned toward them, for the sake of his covenant with Abraham, Yitzhak, and Jacob, and would not destroy them or cast them from his presence as yet. And Hazael, sovereign of Aram, died, and Ben-Hadad, his son, reigned in his place. And Jehoash, son of Jehoahaz, recovered from the hand of Ben-Hadad, son of Hazael, the cities which he had taken out of the hand of Jehoahaz his father in battle. Joash struck him 3 times, and he recovered the cities of Israel. Chapter 14. In the 2nd year of Joash, son of Jehoahaz, sovereign of Israel, Amaziah, son of Joash, sovereign of Yehudah, began to reign. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Jehoiadin of Jerusalem. And he did what was right in the eyes of Yahuwah, but not like his father David. He did according to all his father Joash did. However, the high places were not taken away. The people still slaughtered and burned incense on the high places. And it came to be, as soon as the reign was strengthened in his hand, that he struck his servants who had stricken his father the sovereign. But he did not put to death the children of the strikers, according to what is written in the book of the Torah of Moshe. in which Yahuwah commanded, saying, Fathers are not put to death for the children, and children are not put to death for the fathers, but each one is to put to death for his own sin. He struck Edom in the valley of Salt, 10,000, and took Selah in battle, and called its name Yokthael to this day. Amaziah then sent messengers to Joash, son of Jehoahaz, son of Jehu, sovereign of Yisrael, saying, Come, let us look each other in the face. And Joash, sovereign of Yisrael, sent to Amaziah, sovereign of Yehuda, saying, The thistle that was in Lebanon sent to the cedar that was in Lebanon, saying, Give your daughter to my son as wife. And a wild beast that was in Lebanon passed by and trampled the thistle. You have certainly stricken Edom, and your heart has lifted you up. Be esteemed and stay in your house. But why do you stir up yourself to evil, that you should fall, you and Yehuda with you? But Amaziah did not listen. So Jehoash, sovereign of Yisrael, went up, and he and Amaziah, sovereign of Yehuda, faced one another at Beth Shemesh, which belongs to Yehuda. And Yehuda was smitten before Yisrael, and they each fled to his tent. And Jehoash, sovereign of Yisrael, caught Amaziah, sovereign of Yehuda, son of Jehoash, son of Ahaziah, at Beth Shemesh. And they came to Jerusalem, and he broke through the wall of Jerusalem from the gate of Ephraim to the corner gate, 400 cubits. And he took all the gold and silver and all the objects that were found in the house of Yahuwah, and in the treasuries of the sovereign's house, and hostages, and returned to Shamaron. And the rest of the acts of Jehoash, which he did, and his might, and how he fought with Amaziah, sovereign of Yehuda, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yisrael? So Jehoash slept with his fathers, and was buried in Shamaron with the sovereigns of Yisrael. And Jeroboam his son reigned in his place. And Amaziah, son of Joash, sovereign of Yehuda, lived 15 years after the death of Jehoash, son of Jehoahaz, sovereign of Israel. And the rest of the acts of Amaziah, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yehuda? And they made a conspiracy against him in Jerusalem, and he fled to Lachish. And they sent after him to Lachish, and killed him there, and brought him on horses. And he was buried at Jerusalem with his fathers in the city of David. And all the people of Yehuda took Azariah, who was 16 years old, and set him up to reign instead of his father Amaziah. He built Elath, and restored it to Yehuda, after the sovereign slept with his fathers. In the 15th year of Amaziah, son of Joash, the sovereign of Yehuda, Jeroboam, son of Joash, the sovereign of Israel, began to reign in Shamaron, and reigned 41 years. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah. He did not turn away from all the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who had made Yisrael sin. He restored the border of Yisrael from the entrance of Hamath to the sea of Arabah, according to the word of Yahuwah Elohim of Yisrael, which he had spoken through his servant Yonah, son of Amittai, the prophet who was from Gath Hepher. For Yahuwah saw that the affliction of Yisrael was very bitter, and there was no one, neither shut up nor left at large, to help Yisrael. And Yahuwah had not said that he would blot out the name of Yisrael from under the heavens, but saved them by the hand of Jeroboam, son of Joash. And the rest of the acts of Jeroboam, and all that he did, and his might, how he fought, and how he recovered Damasek and Hamath for Yehuda in Yisrael, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yisrael? So Jeroboam slept with his fathers, the sovereigns of Yisrael, and Zechariah his son reigned in his place. Chapter 15. In the 27th year of Jeroboam, sovereign of Yisrael, Azariah, son of Amaziah, sovereign of Yehuda, began to reign. He was 16 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 52 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Yecholyahu of Jerusalem. And he did what was right in the eyes of Yahuwah, according to all that his fathers Amaziah did. However, the high places were not taken away. The people still slaughtered and burned incense on the high places. And Yahuwah smote the sovereign, so that he was a leper until the day of his death. And he dwelt in a separate house. And Jotam, son of the sovereign, was over the house, ruling the people of the land. And the rest of the acts of Azaryahu, and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yehudah? So Azariah slept with his fathers, and they buried him with his fathers in the city of David, and Jotam his son reigned in his place. In the 38th year of Azaryahu, sovereign of Yehudah, Zechariah son of Jeroboam began to reign over Yisrael in Shamaron for 6 new moons. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, as his fathers had done. He did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who had made Yisrael sin. And Shallum, son of Yabesh, conspired against him, and struck him in front of the people, and killed him, and reigned in his place. And the rest of the acts of Zechariah, see, they are written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yisrael. This was the word of Yahuwah, which he spoke to Jehu, saying, Your sons to the 4th generation are going to sit on the throne of Yisrael. And it came to be so. Shallum, son of Yabesh, began to reign in the 39th year of Uzziah, the sovereign of Yehudah, and he reigned a month of days in Shamaron. And Mahanahem, son of Gadi, went up from Tirzah, and came to Shamaron, and struck Shallum, son of Yabesh, in Shamaron, and killed him, and reigned in his place. And the rest of the acts of Shallum, and the conspiracy which he led, see, they are written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yisrael. And Mahanahem struck Tifsah, and all who were there, and its borders, from Tirzah, because they did not open it to him. Therefore he struck it, and he ripped open all the pregnant women. In the 39th year of Azariah, sovereign of Yehudah, Mahanahem, son of Godi, began to reign over Yisrael, 10 years in Shamaron. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah. He did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who made Yisrael sin all his days. Pul, the sovereign of Ashur, came against the land. And Mahanahem gave Pul 1,000 talents of silver for his hand to be with him to strengthen the rein in his hand. And Mahanahem exacted the silver of Yisrael, of all the mighty men of wealth, of each man 50 shekels of silver, to give to the sovereign of Ashur. And the sovereign of Ashur turned back, and did not stay there in the land. And the rest of the acts of Mahanahem, and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yisrael? So Mahanahem slept with his fathers, and Pekahiah, his son, reigned in his place. In the 50th year of Azariah, the sovereign of Yehudah, Pekahiah, the son of Mahanahem, began to reign over Yisrael, in Shamaron, for 2 years. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah. He did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who had made Yisrael sin. And Pekah, son of Remaliahu, a chief officer of his, conspired against him and struck him in Shamaron, in the high place of the sovereign's house, along with Argob and Aryeh. And with him were 50 men of Gilead. So he killed him and reigned in his place. And the rest of the acts of Pekahiah, and all that he did, see, they are written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yisrael. In the 52nd year of Azariah, sovereign of Yehudah, Pekah, son of Remaliahu, began to reign over Yisrael in Shamaron for 20 years. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah. He did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who had made Yisrael sin. In the days of Pekah, sovereign of Yisrael, Tiglath-Pileser, sovereign of Ashur, came and took Iyon, and Abel, Beth-Maacah, and Yonoah, and Kadesh, and Chatzor, and Gilead, and Galil, all the lands of Naphtali, and took them into exile into Ashur. And Hoshea, son of Elah, led a conspiracy against Pekah, son of Remaliahu, and struck him and killed him, and reigned in his place in the 20th year of Jotham son of Uzziah. And the rest of the acts of Pekah, and all that he did, see, they are written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yisrael. In the 2nd year of Pekah son of Remaliahu, sovereign of Yisrael, Jotham son of Uzziah, sovereign of Yehudah, began to reign. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Yerusha, the daughter of Zadok. And he did what was right in the eyes of Yahuwah. He did according to all that his father Uzziyahu did. However, the high places were not taken away. The people still slaughtered and burned incense on the high places. He built the upper gate of the house of Yahuwah, and the rest of the acts of Jotham, and all that he did. Are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yehudah? In those days Yahuwah began to send Rezin, sovereign of Aram, and Pekah, son of Remaliahu, against Yehudah. So Jotham slept with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David his father. And Ahaz his son reigned in his place. Chapter 16. In the 17th year of Pekah, son of Remaliahu, Ahaz, son of Jotham, sovereign of Yehudah, began to reign. Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. And he did not do what was right in the eyes of Yahuwah, his Elohim, as his father David had done. But he walked in the way of the sovereigns of Yisrael, and he also made his son pass through the fire, according to the abominations of the nations whom Yahuwah had dispossessed from before the children of Israel. And he slaughtered and burned incense on the high places, and on the hills, and under every green tree. Then Rezin, sovereign of Aram, and Pekah, son of Remaliahu, sovereign of Israel, came up to Jerusalem to battle. And they besieged Ahaz, but were unable to overcome him. At that time Rezin, sovereign of Aram, recovered Elath for Aram, and drove the men of Yehudah from Elath. And the Edomites went to Elath, and have dwelt there to this day. And Ahaz sent messengers to Tiglath-Pileser, sovereign of Ashur, saying, I am your servant and your son. Come up and save me from the hand of the sovereign of Aram, and from the hand of the sovereign of Yisrael, who are rising up against me. And Ahaz took the silver and gold that was found in the house of Yahuwah, and in the treasuries of the house of the sovereign, and sent it as a present to the sovereign of Ashur. And the sovereign of Ashur listened to him. And the sovereign of Ashur went up against Damasek and captured it, and exiled it to Kir, and he killed Rezin. And sovereign Ahaz went to meet Tiglath-Pileser, sovereign of Ashur, at Damasek, and saw a slaughter place that was at Damasek. And sovereign Ahaz sent to Uriah the priest a sketch of the slaughter place and its pattern, according to all its workmanship. And Uriah the priest built a slaughter place according to all that sovereign Ahaz had sent from Damasek. And Uriah the priest made it before sovereign Ahaz came from Damasek. And when the sovereign came from Damasek, the sovereign saw the slaughter place. And the sovereign approached the slaughter place and made offerings on it. And he burned his ascending offering and his grain offering. And he poured his drink offering and sprinkled the blood of his peace offerings on the slaughter place. And the bronze slaughter place which was before Yahuwah he brought from the front of the house, from between the new slaughter place and the house of Yahuwah, and put it on the north side of his slaughter place. And sovereign Ahaz commanded Uriah the priest, saying, On the great slaughter place burn the morning ascending offering, and the evening grain offering, and the sovereign's ascending offering and his grain offering, with the ascending offering of all the people of the land, and their grain offering and their drink offerings, and sprinkle on it all the blood of the ascending offering and all of the blood of the slaughtering. And the bronze slaughter place is for me to inquire by. And Uriah the priest did according to all that sovereign Ahaz commanded. And sovereign Ahaz cut off the side panels of the stands, and removed the basins from them. And he took down the sea from the bronze oxen that were under it, and put it on a pavement of stones, and the covered way which they had built in the house for the Sabbath, and the sovereign's outer entrance he took from the house of Yahuwah, because of the sovereign of Ashur. And the rest of the acts of Ahaz, which he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yehudah? So Ahaz slept with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David, and Hezekiyah his son reigned in his place. Chapter 17. In the 12th year of Ahaz, sovereign of Yehudah, Hoshea, son of Elah, began to reign over Yisrael in Shamaron for 9 years. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, but not as the sovereigns of Yisrael who were before him. Shalmaneser, sovereign of Ashur, came up against him, and Hoshea became his servant, and rendered him a present. But the sovereign of Ashur found a conspiracy in Hoshea, for he had sent messengers to So, sovereign of Mitzrayim, and had not brought a present to the sovereign of Ashur as year by year. And the sovereign of Ashur shut him up, and bound him in prison. And the sovereign of Ashur went through all the land, and went up to Shamaron, and besieged it for 3 years. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the sovereign of Ashur captured Shamaron, and exiled Yisrael to Ashur, and settled them in Chahalach, and Chabor, the river of Gozan, and in the city of the Medes. Now this came to be because the children of Yisrael had sinned against Yahuwah their Elohim, who had brought them up out of the land of Mitzrayim, from under the hand of Pharaoh, sovereign of Mitzrayim, and feared other mighty ones, and walked in the laws of the nations whom Yahuwah had dispossessed from before the children of Yisrael, and of the sovereigns of Yisrael that they had made. And the children of Yisrael secretly did against Yahuwah their Elohim matters that were not right. And they built for themselves high places in all their cities, from watchtower unto the walled cities, and set up for themselves pillars and asherim under every high hill, and under every green tree, and burned incense there on all the high places, like the nation whom Yahuwah had removed from their presence. And they did evil matters to provoke Yahuwah, and served the idols, of which Yahuwah had said to them, "Do not do this." And Yahuwah warned Yisrael and Yehudah through all of his prophets and every seer, saying, "Turn back from your evil ways, and guard my commands and my laws according to all the Torah which I commanded your fathers, and which I sent to you by my servants the prophets." But they did not listen, and hardened their necks, like the necks of their fathers, who did not put their trust in Yahuwah their Elohim, and rejected his laws, and his covenant that he had made with their fathers, and his witnesses, which he had witnessed against them, and went after worthlessness, and became worthless, and after the nations who were all around them, of whom Yahuwah had commanded them not to do like them. And they left all the commands of Yahuwah their Elohim, and made for themselves a molded image, 2 calves, and made an Asherah, and bowed themselves to it, to all the hosts of the heavens, and served Baal, and caused their sons and daughters to pass through the fire, and practiced divination and sorcery, and sold themselves to do evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, to provoke him. So Yahuwah was very enraged with Yisrael, and removed them from his presence. None was left but the tribe of Yehudah alone. Yehudah also did not guard the commands of Yahuwah their Elohim, but walked in the laws of Yisrael which they made. And Yahuwah rejected all the seed of Yisrael, and afflicted them, and gave them into the hand of plunderers, until he had cast them out from his presence. For he tore Yisrael from the house of David, and they made Jeroboam son of Nebat sovereign. And Jeroboam drove Yisrael from following Yahuwah, and made them commit a great sin. And the children of Yisrael walked in all the sins of Jeroboam which he did. They did not turn away from them, until Yahuwah removed Yisrael from his presence, as he spoke by all his servants the prophets. So Yisrael was exiled from their land to Ashur, as it is to this day. And the sovereign of Ashur brought people from Babel, and from Kutha, and from Awa, and from Hamath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Shamaron instead of the children of Yisrael. And they took possession of Shamaron and dwelt in its cities. And it came to be at the beginning of their dwelling there, that they did not fear Yahuwah. And Yahuwah sent lions among them, which were killing among them. And they spoke to the sovereign of Ashur, saying, "The nations whom you have removed and placed in the cities of Shamaron do not know the right ruling of the Elohim of the land. And he has sent lions among them, and see, they are slaying among them, because they do not know the right ruling of the Elohim of the land." And the sovereign of Ashur commanded, saying, "Send one of the priests, whom you exiled from there, to go there. Let him go there and dwell there, and let him teach them the right ruling of the Elohim of the land." And one of the priests, whom they had exiled from Shamaron, came and dwelt in Bethel, and taught them how to fear Yahuwah. But every nation was making mighty ones of its own, and put them in the houses of the high places, which the Shamaronaim had made, every nation in the cities where they dwelt. And the men of Babel made Sukkot, Benoth, and the men of Cuth made Nergal, and the men of Hamath made Ashima, and the Awites made Nibhaz and Tartak. And the Sepharvites burned their children in fire to Adramelech and Anamelech, the mighty ones of the Sepharim. They also feared Yahuwah, and from every class they made for themselves priests of the high places, who offered for them in the house of the high places. They were fearing Yahuwah, and they were serving their own mighty ones, according to the ruling of the nations from among whom they had been exiled. To this day they are doing according to the former rulings. They are not fearing Yahuwah, nor do they follow their laws, or their right rulings, or the Torah and command which Yahuwah had commanded the children of Jacob, whose name he made Yisrael, with whom Yahuwah had made a covenant, and commanded them, saying, "Do not fear other mighty ones, nor bow down to them, nor serve them, nor slaughter to them. But Yahuwah, who brought you up from the land of Mitzrayim with great power, and with an outstretched arm, him you shall fear, and to him you shall bow yourselves, and to him you shall slaughter, and guard to do forever the laws and the right rulings, and the Torah, and the command which he wrote for you. And do not fear other mighty ones, and do not forget the covenant that I made with you, and do not fear other mighty ones. But fear Yahuwah your Elohim, so that he delivers you from the hand of all your enemies." And they did not obey, but did according to their former ruling. So these nations were fearing Yahuwah, and served their carved images, both their children and their children's children, as their fathers did. They are doing to this day. Chapter 18. And it came to be in the 3rd year of Hoshea, son of Elah, sovereign of Yisrael, that Hezekiah, son of Ahaz, sovereign of Yehudah, began to reign. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Abi, daughter of Zechariah. And he did what was right in the eyes of Yahuwah, according to all that his father David did. He took away the high places, and broke down the pillars, and cut down the Asherah, and broke in pieces the bronze serpent which Moshe had made. For until those days the children of Yisrael burned incense to it, and called it Nehushtan. He put his trust in Yahuwah Elohim of Yisrael, and after him was none like him among all the sovereigns of Yehudah, nor who were before him. And he clung to Yahuwah. He did not turn away from following him, but guarded his commands, which Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And Yahuwah was with him wherever he went, he acted wisely, and he rebelled against the sovereign of Ashur, and did not serve him. He struck the Philistines as far as Azza and its borders, from watchtower unto the walled city. And it came to be in the 4th year of sovereign Hezekiah, which was the 7th year of Hoshea son of Elah, sovereign of Yisrael, that Shalmaneser, sovereign of Ashur, came up against Shamaron, and besieged it, and they captured it at the end of 3 years. In the 6th year of Hezekiah, that is the 9th year of Hoshea, sovereign of Yisrael, Shamaron was captured. And the sovereign of Ashur exiled Yisrael to Ashur, and placed them in Chalahah and Chavor, the rivers of Gozan, and in the cities of the Medes, because they did not obey the voice of Yahuwah their Elohim, but transgressed his covenant, all that Moshe the servant of Yahuwah had commanded, and they did not obey nor do them. And in the 14th year of sovereign Hezekiah, Sennacherib, sovereign of Ashur, came up against all the walled cities of Yehudah, and captured them. And Hezekiah, sovereign of Yehudah, sent to the sovereign of Ashur at Lachish, saying, I have done wrong. Turn away from me. I shall bear whatever you impose on me. And the sovereign of Ashur imposed upon Hezekiah, the sovereign of Yehudah, 300 talents of silver and 30 talents of gold. And Hezekiah gave him all the silver that was found in the house of Yahuwah, and in the treasuries of the sovereign's house. At that time Hezekiah cut off the doors of the Hekal of Yahuwah, and the doorposts which Hezekiah, sovereign of Yehudah, had overlaid, and gave it to the sovereign of Ashur. And the sovereign of Ashur sent the Tartan, and the Rabsaris, and the Rabshakeh from Lachish, with a great army against Jerusalem, to sovereign Hezekiah. And they went up and came to Jerusalem. And when they had come up, they came and stood by the channel of the upper pool, which was on the highway to the launderer's field. And they called to the sovereign. And Eliakim, son of Hilkiah, was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and Joah, son of Asaph, the recorder, came out to them. And the Rabshakeh said to them, Please say to Hezekiah, Thus said the great sovereign, the sovereign of Ashur, What is this trust in which you have trusted? You have spoken of having counsel and strength for battle, but they are only words of the lips. And in whom do you trust that you rebel against me? Now look, you have put your trust in the staff of this crushed reed, Mitzrayim, on which if a man leans, it shall go into his hand and pierce it. So is Pharaoh, sovereign of Mitzrayim, to all who trust in him. But when you say to me, We trust in Yahuwah our Elohim, is not he whose high places and whose slaughter places Hezekiah has taken away, and said to Yehudah and Jerusalem, Bow yourselves before this slaughter place in Jerusalem? And now I urge you, give a pledge to my master the sovereign of Ashur. Then I give you 2,000 horses, if you're able to put riders on them. And how do you turn back the face of one commander of the least of my master's servants, and trust in Mitzrayim for chariots and horsemen? Have I now come up without Yahuwah against this place to destroy it? Yahuwah said to me, Go up against this land, and you shall destroy it. Then said Eliakim, son of Hilkiah, and Shebna, and Joah, to the Rabshak, Please speak to your servants in Aramaic, for we understand it, and do not speak to us in the language of Yehudah in the ears of the people on the wall. And the Rabshak said to them, Has my master sent me to your master, and to you to speak these words, and not to the men sitting on the wall to eat their own dung and drink their own urine with you? And the Rabshak stood and called out with a loud voice in the language of Yehudah, and spoke and said, Hear the word of the great sovereign, the sovereign of Ashur. Thus said the sovereign, Do not let Hezekiah deceive you, for he is unable to deliver you out of his hand. And do not let Hezekiah make you trust in Yahuwah, saying, Yahuwah shall certainly deliver us, and this city is not given into the hand of the sovereign of Ashur. Do not listen to Hezekiah, for thus said the sovereign of Ashur, make peace with me by a present, and come out to me, and let each of you eat from his own vine and from his own fig tree, and each of you drink the waters of his own cistern, until I come. Then I shall take you away to a land like your own land, a land of grain and new wine, a land of bread and vineyards, a land of olive trees and honey, and live and not die. But do not listen to Hezekiah when he misleads you, saying, Yahuwah shall deliver us. Has any of the mighty ones of the nations at all delivered its land from the hands of the sovereign of Ashur? Where are the mighty ones of Hamath and Arphad? Where are the mighty ones of Sepharvaim and Hena and Iwa? Did they deliver Shamaron from my hand? Who among all the mighty ones of the lands have delivered their land out of my hand? That Yahuwah should deliver Jerusalem from my hand. But the people were silent and did not answer him a word, for the command of the sovereign was, do not answer him. And Eliakim, son of Hilkiah, who was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and Joash, son of Asaph, the recorder, came to Hezekiah with their garments torn, and they reported to him the words of the Rabshakeh. Chapter 19. And it came to be when sovereign Hezekiah heard it, that he tore his garments, and covered himself with sackcloth, and went into the house of Yahuwah, and sent to Eliakim, who was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and the elders of the priests, covering themselves with sackcloth, to Yeshayahu the prophet, son of Amoz. And they said to him, thus said Hezekiah, this day is a day of distress and rebuke and scorn, for the children have come to birth, but there is no power to bring forth. It could be that Yahuwah your Elohim does hear all the words of Rabshakeh, whom his master the sovereign of Ashur has sent to reproach the living Elohim, and shall rebuke the words which Yahuwah your Elohim has heard. Therefore lift up your prayer for the remnant that is left. And the servants of sovereign Hezekiah came to Yeshayahu, and Yeshayahu said to them, say this to your master, thus said Yahuwah, do not be afraid of the words which you have heard, with which the servants of the sovereign of Ashur have reviled me. See, I am putting a spirit upon him, and he shall hear a report and return to his own land, and I shall cause him to fall by the sword in his land. And the Rabshakeh returned and found the sovereign of Ashur fighting against Libnah, for he had heard that he had left Lachish. And when the sovereign heard concerning Tirakah, sovereign of Cush, see, he has come out to fight against you, he again sent messengers to Hezekiah, saying, speak to Hezekiah, sovereign of Yehudah, saying, do not let your Elohim in whom you trust deceive you, saying Jerusalem is not given into the hand of the sovereign of Ashur. See, you have heard what the sovereigns of Ashur have done to all the lands by putting them under the ban. And are you going to be delivered? Have the mighty ones of the nations delivered those whom my fathers have destroyed? Gozan and Haran and Retseph, and the sons of Eden who were in Telasar. Where is the sovereign of Hamath, and the sovereign of Arphad, and the sovereign of the city of Sepharvaim, Hena, and Iwa? And Hezekiah received the letters from the hand of the messengers, and read them, and went up to the house of Yahuwah. And Hezekiah spread it before Yahuwah. And Hezekiah prayed before Yahuwah, and said, O Yahuwah, Elohim of Yisrael, the one who dwells between the cherubim, you are Elohim, you alone. Of all the reigns of the earth, you have made the heavens and the earth. Incline your ear, O Yahuwah, and hear. Open your eyes, O Yahuwah, and see, and hear the words of Sennacherib, which he has sent to reproach the living Elohim. Truly, Yahuwah, the sovereigns of Asher have laid waste the nations and their lands, and have put their mighty ones into the fire. For they were not mighty ones, but the work of men's hands, wood and stone, and destroyed them. And now, O Yahuwah our Elohim, I pray, save us from his hand, so that all the reigns of the earth know that you are Yahuwah Elohim, you alone. Then Yeshayahu son of Amoz sent to Hezekiyah, saying, Thus said Yahuwah Elohim of Yisrael, I have heard that which you have prayed to me against Sennacherib, sovereign of Asher. This is the word which Yahuwah has spoken concerning him. The maiden, the daughter of Zion, has despised you, mocked you. The daughter of Jerusalem has shaken her head behind you. Whom have you reproached and reviled? Against whom have you raised a voice and lifted up your eyes on high? Against the set-apart one of Yisrael. By the hand of your messengers you have reproached Yahuwah, and said, With my many chariots I have come up to the height of the mountains, to the sides of Lebanon, and I cut down its tall cedars, its choice cypress trees, and I enter its remotest parts, its thickest forests. I have dug and drunk strange water, and with the soles of my feet I dry up all the streams of defense. Have you not heard long ago? I made it. From days of old I formed it. Now I have brought it up to be, that you should make walled cities ruinous heaps. And their inhabitants were powerless. They were overthrown and put to shame. They were as the grass of the field and the green plants, as the grass on the housetops, and withered before it came up. But I know your sitting down, and your going out, and your coming in, and your rage against me. Because your rage against me and your pride have come up to my ears, I shall put my hook in your nose, and my bridle in your lips, and I shall turn you back by the way which you came. And this is the sign for you. This year you eat what grows of itself, and in the second year what springs from that, and in the third year sow and reap, and plant vineyards, and eat their fruit. And the remnant who have escaped the house of Yehudah shall again take root downward, and be fruitful. For out of Jerusalem comes forth a remnant, and those who escape from Mount Zion. The order of Yahuwah does this. Thus said Yahuwah concerning the sovereign of Asher, He does not come into the city, nor does he shoot an arrow there, nor does he come before it with shield, nor does he build a siege mount against it. By the way that he came, by the same he turns back. And he does not come into this city, declares Yahuwah. And I shall defend this city to save it, for my own sake, and for the sake of David my servant. And it came to be in that night that the messenger of Yahuwah went out and struck in the camp of Asher 185,000. And they rose up early in the morning and saw all of them dead bodies. And Sennacherib, sovereign of Asher, broke camp and went away, and turned back and remained in Nineveh. And it came to be, as he was bowing himself in the house of Nisroch, his mighty one, that his sons, Adramelech and Sharezer, struck him with the sword, and they escaped into the land of Ararat. And his son, Esarhaddon, reigned in his place. Chapter 20. In those days Hezekiyah was sick unto death, and Yeshayahu the prophet, son of Amoz, went to him and said to him, Thus said Yahuwah, Command your house, for you are going to die, and not live. And he turned his face toward the wall, and prayed to Yahuwah, saying, I pray to you, O Yahuwah, remember how I have walked before you in truth and with a perfect heart, and have done what was good in your eyes. And Hezekiah wept bitterly. And it came to be, before Yeshayahu had gone out into the middle court, that the word of Yahuwah came to him, saying, Return, and say to Hezekiah, the leader of my people, Thus said Yahuwah, the Elohim of David your father, I have heard your prayer, I have seen your tears. See, I am going to heal you. On the third day, Go up to the house of Yahuwah, and I shall add to your days 15 years, and deliver you and this city from the hand of the sovereign of Ashur, and shall defend this city for my own sake, and for the sake of David my servant. And Yeshayahu said, Take a cake of figs. And they took and laid it on the boil, and he recovered. And Hezekiah said to Yeshayahu, What is the sign that Yahuwah does heal me, and that I shall go up to the house of Yahuwah the third day? And Yeshayahu said, This is the sign for you from Yahuwah, that Yahuwah does the word which he has spoken. Shall the shadow go forward 10 degrees, or go backward 10 degrees? And Hezekiah said, It would be easy for the shadow to go down 10 degrees. No, but let the shadow go backward 10 degrees. And Yeshayahu the prophet cried out to Yahuwah, and he brought the shadow 10 degrees backward, by which it had gone down on the sundial of Ahaz. At that time, Berodach Baladan, son of Baladan, sovereign of Babel, sent letters and a present to Hezekiah, for he heard that Hezekiah had been sick. And Hezekiah listened to them, and showed them all his treasure house, the silver and the gold and the spices and the precious ointment, and all his armory, and all that was found among his treasures. There was not an object in his house or in all his rule that Hezekiah did not show them. And Yeshayahu the prophet came to sovereign Hezekiah and said to him, What did these men say? Hezekiah said, They came from a distant land, from Babel. And he said, What have they seen in your house? And Hezekiah answered, They saw all that is in my house. There is not an object among my treasures that I did not show them. And Yeshayahu said to Hezekiah, Hear the word of Yahuwah. See, the days are coming when all that is in your house, and what your fathers have treasured up until this day, shall be brought to Babel. No object is to be left, said Yahuwah. And they are going to take away some of your sons who are born to you, whom you bring forth, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the sovereign of Babel. And Hezekiah said to Yeshayahu, The word of Yahuwah which you have spoken is good. And he said, Is it not so, if peace and truth are in my days? And the rest of the acts of Hezekiah, and all his might, and how he made a pool and a channel, and brought water into the city, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yehudah? So Hezekiah slept with his fathers, and Manasseh his son reigned in his place. Chapter 21. Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 55 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Hephzibah. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, according to the abominations of the nations whom Yahuwah dispossessed before the children of Israel. For he turned and built the high places, which Hezekiah his father had destroyed, and raised up slaughter places for Baal, and made an Asherah, as Ahab, sovereign of Israel, had done. And he bowed himself to all the host of the heavens, and served them. And he built slaughter places in the house of Yahuwah, of which Yahuwah had said, In Jerusalem I put my name. And he built slaughter places for all the hosts of the heavens in the 2 courtyards of the house of Yahuwah. And he made his son pass through the fire, and practiced magic, and used divination, and consulted spiritists and mediums. He did much evil in the eyes of Yahuwah to provoke him. And he placed a carved image of Asherah that he had made in the house of which Yahuwah had said to David and to Shelomah his son, In this house, and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Yisrael, I put my name forever. And no more shall I cause the feet of Yisrael to move from the soil which I gave their fathers, only if they guard to do according to all that I have commanded them, and according to all the Torah that my servant Moshe commanded them. But they did not obey, and Manasseh led them astray to do more evil than the nations whom Yahuwah had destroyed before the children of Israel. And Yahuwah spoke by his servants the prophets, saying, Because Manasseh, sovereign of Yehudah, has done these abominations, having done more evil than all the Amorites who were before him, and also made Yehudah sin with his idols. Therefore thus said Yahuwah Elohim of Yisrael, See, I am bringing such evil upon Jerusalem and Yehudah that both ears of those who hear of it shall tingle. And I shall stretch over Jerusalem the measuring line of Shamaron, and the plummet of the house of Ahab, and shall wipe Jerusalem as one wipes a dish, wiping it and turning it upside down. And I shall forsake the remnant of my inheritance, and give them into the hand of their enemies. And they shall be for a prey and for a plunder to all their enemies, because they have done evil in my eyes, and have provoked me since the day their fathers came out of Mitzrayim, even to this day. And also Manasseh shed very much innocent blood, until he had filled Jerusalem from one end to another, besides his sin with which he made Yehudah sin, in doing evil in the eyes of Yahuwah. And the rest of the acts of Manasseh, and all that he did, and the sin that he committed, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yehudah? So Manasseh slept with his fathers, and was buried in the garden of his own house, in the garden of Uzzah. And his son Amon reigned in his place. Amon was 22 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 2 years in Jerusalem. And the name of his mother was Meshullemeth, the daughter of Harutz of Yotabah. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, as his father Manasseh had done, and walked in all the ways that his father had walked, and served the idols that his father had served, and bowed himself to them, and forsook Yahuwah Elohim of his fathers, and did not walk in the way of Yahuwah. And the servants of Amon conspired against him, and killed the sovereign in his own house. But the people of the land struck all those who had conspired against sovereign Amon, and the people of the land set up his son Yoshiyahu to reign in his place. And the rest of the acts of Amon, which he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yehudah? And he was buried in his burial place in the garden of Uzzah, and his son Yoshiyahu reigned in his place. Chapter 22. Yoshiyahu was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 31 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Yedidah, the daughter of Adiah of Botzkath. And he did what was right in the eyes of Yahuwah, and walked in all the ways of his father David, and did not turn aside right or left. And it came to be in the 18th year of sovereign Yoshiyahu, that the sovereign sent Shaphan the scribe, son of Atzalahu, son of Meshullam, to the house of Yahuwah, saying, Go up to Hezekiah, the high priest, and let him weigh the silver which has been brought into the house of Yahuwah, which the doorkeepers have gathered from the people, and let them give it into the hands of those doing the work, who are overseers in the house of Yahuwah, and let them give it to those who are in the house of Yahuwah, doing the work, to strengthen the breach of the house, to carpenters, and to builders, and to stonemasons, and to buy timber and hewn stone to strengthen the house. However, let not the silver given into their hand be reckoned with them, for they are acting trustworthily. And Hezekiyah the high priest said to Shaphan the scribe, I have found the book of the Torah in the house of Yahuwah. And Hezekiah gave the book to Shaphan, and he read it. And Shaphan the scribe came to the sovereign, and brought word to the sovereign again, saying, Your servants have gathered the silver that was found in the house, and have given it into the hand of those who do the work, who oversee the house of Yahuwah. And Shaphan the scribe informed the sovereign, saying, Hezekiah the priest has given me a book. And Shaphan read it before the sovereign. And it came to be, when the sovereign heard the words of the book of the Torah, that he tore his garments. And the sovereign commanded Hezekiah the priest, and Ahikam son of Shaphan, and Achbor son of Micaiah, and Shaphan the scribe, and Ahaziah, a servant of the sovereign, saying, Go, inquire of Yahuwah for me, for the people and for all Yehudah, concerning the words of this book that has been found. For great is the wrath of Yahuwah that is kindled against us, because our fathers have not obeyed the words of this book, to do according to all that is written concerning us. Then Hezekiah the priest, and Ahikam, and Achbor, and Shophan, and Ahaziah went to Hodlah, the prophetess, the wife of Shallum, son of Tikwa, son of Horhas, keeper of the wardrobe. Now she was dwelling in Jerusalem in the second quarter, and they spoke with her. And she said to them, Thus said Yahuwah Elohim of Yisrael, Say to the man who sent you to me, Thus said Yahuwah, See, I am bringing evil on this place and on its inhabitants, all the words of the book which the sovereign of Yehudah has read, because they have forsaken me, and burned incense to other mighty ones to provoke me with all the works of their hands. And so my wrath shall be kindled against this place, and not be quenched. And to the sovereign of Yehudah, who sent you to inquire of Yahuwah, say this to him, Thus said Yahuwah Elohim of Yisrael, As for the words which you have heard, because your heart was tender, and you humbled yourself before Yahuwah, when you heard what I spoke against this place and against its inhabitants, that they would become a ruin and a curse, and have torn your garments and wept before me, I also have heard, declares Yahuwah. Therefore, see, I am gathering you to your fathers, and you shall be gathered to your burial site in peace, so that your eyes do not see all the evil I am bringing on this place. And they brought word to the sovereign. Chapter 23. And the sovereign sent, and they gathered all the elders of Yehudah and Jerusalem to him. And the sovereign went up to the house of Yahuwah with all the men of Yehudah, and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem with him, and the priests and the prophets and all the people, both small and great. And he read in their hearing all the words of the book of the covenant, which had been found in the house of Yahuwah. And the sovereign stood by the column, and made a covenant before Yahuwah, to follow Yahuwah, and to guard his commands and his witnesses and his laws with all his heart and all his being, to establish the words of this covenant that were written in this book. And all the people stood to the covenant. Then the sovereign commanded Hezekiyah the high priest, and the priests of the second order, and the doorkeepers, to bring out of the Hekal of Yahuwah all the objects that were made for Baal, and for Asherah, and for all the host of the heavens. And he burned them outside Jerusalem, in the fields of Kidron, and took their ashes to Bethel. And he put down the black-robed priests, whom the sovereigns of Yehudah had appointed to burn incense on the high places, in the cities of Yehudah, and in the places all around Jerusalem, and those who burned incense to Baal, to the sun, and to the moon, and to the constellations, and to all the hosts of the heavens. And he brought out the Asherah from the house of Yahuwah, to the Wadi Kidron outside Jerusalem, and burned it at the Wadi Kidron, and ground it to ashes, and threw its ashes on the burial site of the sons of the people. And he broke down the houses of the male cult prostitutes that were in the house of Yahuwah, where the woman wove tapestries for the Asherah. And he brought all the priests from the cities of Yehudah, and defiled the high places where the priests had burned incense from Geba to Beersheba, and broke down the high places at the gates, which were at the entrance of the gate of Yehoshua, the governor of the city, which were to the left of the city gate. However, the priests of the high places did not come up to the slaughter place of Yahuwah in Jerusalem, but they ate unleavened bread among their brothers. And he defiled Topheth, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom, so that no man could make his son or his daughter pass through the fire to Molech. And he did away with the horses that the sovereigns of Yehudah had given to the sun, at the entrance to the house of Yahuwah, by the room of Nathan Melech the eunuch, that were in the court. And he burned the chariots of the sun with fire, and the slaughter places that were on the roof of the upper room of Ahaz, which the sovereigns of Yehudah had made, and the slaughter places which Manasseh had made in the 2 courtyards of the house of Yahuwah, the sovereign broke down and rushed from there, and threw their dust into the Wadi Kidron. And the sovereign defiled the high places that were before Jerusalem, which were on the right hand of the mountain of destruction, which Shelomah, sovereign of Yisrael, built for Ashtaroth, the abomination of the Zidonians, and for Chemosh, the abomination of the Moabites, and for Milcom, the abomination of the children of Ammon. And he broke in pieces the pillars, and cut down the Asherim, and filled their places with the bones of men. And also the slaughter place that was at Bethel, and the high place which Jeroboam son of Nebat made, by which he made Yisrael sin. Both that slaughter place and the high place he broke down. And he burned the high place, and ground it to dust, and burned the Asherah. Then Yoshiyahu turned, and saw the burial sites that were there on the mountain. And he sent and took the bones out of the burial sites, and burned them on the slaughter place, and defiled it, according to the word of Yahuwah, which the man of Elohim proclaimed, who proclaimed these words. And he said, What tombstone is this that I see? And the men of the city said to him, It is the burial site of the man of Elohim, who came from Yehuda and proclaimed these matters which you have done against the slaughter place of Bethel. And he said, Let him alone. Let no one move his bones. So they left his bones alone, with the bones of the prophet who came from Shamaron. And Yoshiyahu also took away all the houses of the high places that were in the cities of Shamaron, which the sovereigns of Yisrael had made to provoke. And he did to them according to all the deeds he did in Bethel. And he slaughtered all the priests of the high places who were there, on the slaughter places, and burned men's bones on them, and went back to Jerusalem. And the sovereign commanded all the people, saying, Prepare the Pesach to Yahuwah your Elohim, as it is written in this book of the covenant. For such a Pesach had not been prepared since the days of the rulers who ruled in Yisrael, nor in all the days of the sovereigns of Yisrael and the sovereigns of Yehuda. But in the 18th year of sovereign Yoshiyahu, this Pesach was prepared before Yahuwah in Jerusalem. And also Yoshiyahu put away those who consulted mediums and spiritists, and the household mighty ones, and idols, and all the abominations that were seen in the land of Yehuda and in Jerusalem, in order to establish the words of the Torah, which were written in the book that Hezekiyah the priest found in the house of Yahuwah. And before him there was no sovereign like him, who turned back to Yahuwah with all his heart, and with all his being, and with all his might, according to all the Torah of Moshe. And after him none rose up like him. However, Yahuwah did not turn from the fierceness of his great wrath, with which his wrath burned against Yehuda, because of all the provocations with which Manasseh had provoked him. And Yahuwah said, Even Yehuda I shall remove from my presence, as I have removed Yisrael, and I shall reject this city Jerusalem which I have chosen, and the house of which I said, My name is there. And the rest of the acts of Yoshiyahu, and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yehuda? In his days Pharaoh Necho, sovereign of Mitzrayim, went up against the sovereign of Ashur to the river Euphrates, and sovereign Yoshiyahu went out to him, and he killed him at Megiddo when he saw him. And his servants conveyed his body in a chariot from Megiddo, and brought him to Jerusalem, and buried him in his own place. And the people of the land took Jehoahaz, son of Yoshiyahu, and anointed him, and set him up to reign in his father's place. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 new moons in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hamatol, the daughter of Yirmiyahu of Libnah. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, according to all that his fathers did. And Pharaoh Necho imprisoned him at Riblah, in the land of Hamath, to keep him from reigning in Jerusalem. And he imposed on the land a fine of 100 talents of silver, and a talent of gold. And Pharaoh Necho set up Eliakim, son of Yoshiyahu, to reign in place of his father Yoshiyahu, and changed his name to Jehoiakim. And Pharaoh took Jehoahaz and went to Mitzrayim, and he died there. And Jehoiakim gave the silver and gold to Pharaoh, only he taxed the land to give silver according to the mouth of Pharaoh. He exacted the silver and gold from the people of the land, from everyone according to his assessment, to give to Pharaoh Necho. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Zebdah, the daughter of Pedaiah of Rumah. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, according to all that his fathers did. Chapter 24. In his days Nebuchadnezzar, sovereign of Babel, came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant for 3 years, and he turned and rebelled against him. And Yahuwah sent against him raiding bands of Kasdim, and raiding bands of Aram, and raiding bands of Moab, and raiding bands of the children of Ammon. And he sent them against Yehudah to destroy it, according to the word of Yahuwah, which he had spoken by his servants the prophets. Only at the mouth of Yahuwah this came upon Yehudah, to remove them from his presence, because of the sins of Manasseh, according to all that he did, and also because of the innocent blood that he shed. For he filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, which Yahuwah would not forgive. And the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim, and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yehudah? So Jehoiakim slept with his fathers, and Jehoiakim, his son, reigned in his place. And the sovereign of Mitzrayim did not come out of his land again, for the sovereign of Babel had taken all that belonged to the sovereign of Mitzrayim, from the wadi of Mitzrayim to the river Euphrates. Jehoiakim was 18 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 new moons. And his mother's name was Nehushta, the daughter of Elnathan of Jerusalem. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, according to all that his father did. At that time the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, sovereign of Babel, came up against Jerusalem, and the city was besieged. And Nebuchadnezzar, sovereign of Babel, came against the city as his servants were besieging it. And Jehoiakim, sovereign of Yehudah, and his mother, and his servants, and his heads, and his eunuchs went out to the sovereign of Babel. And the sovereign of Babel, in the 8th year of his reign, took him prisoner. And he took from there all the treasures of the house of Yahuwah, and the treasures of the sovereign's house. And he cut in pieces all the objects of gold which Shalomon, sovereign of Yisrael, had made in the Hakal of Yahuwah, as Yahuwah had said. And he exiled all of Jerusalem, and all the officers, and all the mighty brave men, 10,000 exiles, and all the craftsmen and smiths. None remained except the poorest people of the land. And he exiled Jehoiakim to Babel, and the sovereign's mother, and the sovereign's wives, and his eunuchs, and the leading men of the land he exiled from Jerusalem to Babel. And all the mighty brave men, 7,000, and the craftsmen and smiths, 1,000, all who were strong and fit for battle. These the sovereign of Babel brought to Babel into exile. And the sovereign of Babel set up Mattaniah, Jehoiakim's uncle, to reign in his place, and changed his name to Zedekiah. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Yirmiyahu of Libnah. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, according to all that Jehoiakim did. For this took place in Jerusalem and Yehudah because of the displeasure of Yahuwah, until he had cast them out from his presence. And Zedekiah rebelled against the sovereign of Babel. Chapter 25. And it came to be in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th new moon, on the 10th of the new moon, that Nebuchadnezzar, sovereign of Babel, and all his army came against Jerusalem, and encamped against it. And they built a siege wall against it all around. And the city was besieged until the 11th year of sovereign Zedekiah. By the 9th of the new moon, the scarcity of food had become so severe in the city that there was no food for the people of the land. Then the city wall was breached, and all the men of battle fled at night by the way of the gate between two walls, which was by the sovereign's garden, even though the Kasdim were still encamped all around against the city. And the sovereign went by the way of the desert plain. And the army of the Kasdim pursued the sovereign and overtook him in the desert plains of Jericho, and all his army was scattered from him. And they seized the sovereign, and brought him up to the sovereign of Babel at Riblah, and they pronounced sentence on him. And they slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, and put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and bound him with bronze shackles, and took him to Babel. And in the 5th new moon, on the 7th of the new moon, which was the 19th year of sovereign Nebuchadnezzar, sovereign of Babel, Nebuzaradan, the chief of the guard, a servant of the sovereign of Babel, came to Jerusalem, and he burned the house of Yahuwah, and the house of the sovereign, and all the houses of Jerusalem. Even every great house he burned with fire. And all the army of the Kasdim, who were with the chief of the guard, broke down the walls of Jerusalem all around. And Nebuzaradan, the chief of the guard, took into exile the rest of the people who were left in the city, and the deserters, who deserted to the sovereign of Babel with the rest of the multitude. But the chief of the guard left some of the poor of the land as vine dressers and farmers. And the bronze columns that were in the house of Yahuwah, and the stands, and the bronze sea that were in the house of Yahuwah, the Kasdim broke in pieces, and took their bronze away to Babel. And they took the pots, and the shovels, and the snuffers, and the ladles, and all the bronze utensils the priest used in the service. And the chief of the guard took the fire holders, and the basins, which were of solid gold and solid silver. The bronze of all these utensils was beyond measure. The 2 columns, the one sea, and the stand which Shelomah had made for the house of Yahuwah. The height of one column was 18 cubits, and the capital on it was of bronze. And the height of the capital was 3 cubits, and the network and pomegranates all around the capital were all of bronze. And the 2nd column was the same, with a network. And the chief of the guard took Sariah, the chief priest, and Zephaniah, the 2nd priest, and the 3 doorkeepers. And out of the city he took a certain eunuch, who was appointed over the men of battle, and 5 men of those who saw the sovereign's face, who were found in the city, and the chief scribe of the army who mustered the people of the land, and 60 men of the people of the land who were found in the city. And Nebuzaradan, chief of the guard, took them, and made them go to the sovereign of Babel at Riblah. And the sovereign of Babel struck them, and put them to death at Riblah in the land of Hamath. So he exiled Yehudah from its own land, and he appointed Gedaliah, son of Ahikam, son of Shaphan, over the people who were left in the land of Yehudah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, sovereign of Babel, had left. And all the commanders of the armies, they and their men, heard that the sovereign of Babel had appointed Gedaliah, and they came to Gedaliah at Mitzpah, even Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, and Johanan, son of Kareah, and Sariah, son of Tahumeth, the Netophathite, and Yozenyahu, the son of a Maachathite, they and their men. And Gedaliah swore to them and their men, and said to them, Do not be afraid of the servants of the Kasdim. Dwell in the land, and serve the sovereign of Babel, and let it be well with you. And in the 7th new moon it came to be that Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, son of Elishama, of the seed of the rain, came with 10 men and struck Gedaliah, that he died. And the Yahudim and the Kasdim who were with him at Mitzpah, and all the people rose up, small and great, and the commanders of the armies, and went to Mitzrayim, for they were afraid of the Kasdim. And it came to be in the 37th year of the exile of Jehoiakim, sovereign of Yehudah, in the 12th new moon, on the 27th of the new moon, that Ewil Merodach, sovereign of Babel, in the year that he began to reign, released Jehoiakim, sovereign of Yehudah, from prison, and spoke kindly to him, and set his throne above the throne of the sovereigns who were with him in Babel, and changed his prison garments, and he ate bread continually before the sovereign all the days of his life. And as his allowance, a continual allowance was given to him from the sovereign, a quota for each day, all the days of his life.